Okay, hi, my name is Wheatley. This is my reflective evaluation of the blog project, which is an assessment that we wrote as a group collectively. We wrote our own assessment and the deadlines and the marking criteria for it. It's for the degree MSc Project Management. I haven't put my student number because this is going on the internet, so I thought I'd be safe. So I'll just get right into it. Okay, so the goals of the project was to produce a functional blog that would be easily accessible online. I've put the link in the presentation because it will be up there for good now. And so you can look at that in your own time. Okay. Another goal of the project was to implement some kind of feedback system so that we could find out how our audiences viewed the blog and what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and how we could improve upon this, because that was what we were fundamentally being assessed on at the end of the day. So that was another criteria that we had to follow. Okay, so what went well? Well, I think that all criteria was met. Personally, I've gone through the criteria on the brief we wrote and it was all met. I'll go through in a minute about kind of the varying levels which the criteria was met by, but it was all met, all boxes were ticked, so that was one major positive of the project. The feedback system, which we supplied via surveymonkey.com, was an excellent success. We decided to stop the vote at 30 responses, which we did, and we received an average score of 14.7 out of 15, which is an excellent result from the entire group. Another thing that went well for me was that there was a range of topics in the blog, and so I feel like this really appealed to our target audience, which was students living, working and studying in the northeast of England, and particularly in Newcastle. So there was a range of topics that I feel appealed to most of that demographic. And another thing that we were it was very important to us, was that all of the topics were culturally sensitive. We didn't obviously want to offend anybody. Obviously, we'd never offend anybody on purpose, but we didn't want to take that chance at all. We remained culturally sensitive throughout the whole thing. Okay, the challenges of the project. An initial challenge was deciding upon the target audience because all of the members of our group were so vastly different in terms of their own culture and kind of what they study in their bachelor's degrees, for example. And while this isn't inherently a problem, it was a challenge because it created this kind of communicational limbo where we were going around in circles in deciding upon a target audience. And again, I've just said this isn't a problem. We just had to find a way to make it a positive because it was a good thing that there was so much variety in the group, and we had to find a way to make that a positive aspect. And I feel like we did that in the end. We decided upon a target audience that was very, very broad. Our target audience was students living and working in the northeast of England, particularly Northumbria and Newcastle University. And within that encompasses a whole range of people. And so that really gave us the freedom to write about the kind of things that we were interested in because we felt like they would appeal to some kind of cultural group within that collective demographic. Okay, one of the other challenges that the blog faced was formatting the blog for access outside of a computer or laptop. We didn't think about this at the time, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. But in our feedback on surveymonkey.com, kind of a recurring theme was that people who'd accessed the blog from their smartphones couldn't really view it properly. Like it was very busy, very visually busy on the screen, and they said that wasn't a problem necessarily, but it was a little off-putting and it made it a little difficult to navigate, and so that was definitely a con of the project for us. That's something that we need to improve on in the future. The submission of the blog was again a challenge for us, mainly because we didn't plan it efficiently from the start. We knew we were creating a blog, but we focused on that, but we didn't think about how this would actually be submitted for assessment in university standard. And so, again, that is something that in future we would definitely have to talk about from the absolute outset of the project. And a personal challenge for me was my IT skills. Probably below brilliant, to put it nicely. Like, I wrote articles for the blog, but I didn't really edit the aesthetic of the blog, mainly because I didn't have the confidence in my IT skills to do that. And so that is kind of a personal con of the project for me. Okay, how can we improve upon this in the future, right? Yeah, we could, a general one is that we could plan the project more thoroughly from the very beginning, because we knew what we were going to do, and that was fine, but we didn't really have all of the finer details kind of ironed out when we started. And initially that wasn't a problem, but as the project got on, and as the project kind of came to its deadline date, these things started to become more apparent and more of a challenge. And so we definitely need to plan everything out from the outset of the project in future. And following in from that, we need to consider the submission/release of a product prior to actually starting to develop it. And I've mentioned this previously, but we didn't consider the format that we would submit the blog in. And so that was a bit of an issue later on when we were actually trying to submit the blog. So to improve upon that, we could consider that from the very beginning. Yeah, we need to account for a wider audience to improve the product. For example, there were a lot of people who I advertised the blog to who didn't have a good enough internet access, or they didn't have internet access at all. And so I feel a way that we could combat this in the future is to take our material outside of the online database. Like, for example, we could perhaps look at publishing some kind of magazine format to combat this problem of people not having access to it online. We could meet deadlines more efficiently by employing some kind of time structuring format. For example, a Gantt chart from the very beginning. This was because we struggled at times with a collective communication in the group, and this could be combated, and we could achieve our deadlines more easily by kind of planning this from the beginning. And yeah, there was a number of non-responses when we sent out feedback via SurveyMonkey, so we did combat this by sending it out to just a massive ton of people to get our desired quota of answers. But in future we could perhaps offer some kind of enticement to get them to fill out the survey, because it wasn't that long, it was only 5 questions. So we could offer something in return for them answering our survey in future that could combat non-responses. So I think the main learning curve of this whole project, for me personally, is what I was talking about earlier about the submission of the blog, and in a wider context, thinking about the release of a product before you actually start to develop it. Because while we were developing the project, that wasn't a huge issue, but as it was approaching a release date, it became a little bit of a stressor. And so, for me, that is definitely something that I'm going to take away from this project, and I'm definitely going to remember this in my working life. And I feel like this is genuinely going to feed into my career as a project manager later in life, this lesson right here. So, thank you, that's me.